pulled out for a short time.
Right.
And then they came back. See, but it was only four, but they all manufacturers pulled out.
Yeah.
But then they came back. And then our whole deal shut off when John Holman, see, he died of a massive heart attack.
I believe 75, wasn't it?
Exactly.
74, 75?
New Year's Day.
Oh, wow.
You know, and we put a car together to run the 24-hour race at Daytona. And it was a deal between John Holman and Big Bill France. We guaranteed so much money. And then when he had that heart attack, I remember talking to Bill France, you know, because Bowser said, well, what the hell's going to happen now? Well, let's find out. And he said, don't worry about it. You guys will get paid. So we did get paid.
That was Big Bill France?
Yeah. Yeah, because I got to know him pretty good, too. Because I remember I met him actually at the first Daytona race. And I remember him, he came to Sebring, and he remembered me. Or I don't know if he asked somebody that what my name was, because he come up to me, he says, hey, Lou, he says, he wanted me to introduce him to Dan Gurney. I remember that like it was yesterday, when Big Bill France asked her.
So, while you're thinking of names like that, and I'm not putting you on the spot about names, but a lot of big names and a lot of guys came out of Holman and Moody and went on to bigger and better things besides the drivers, correct?
Oh, without a doubt, the majority of your good mechanics, believe it or not, in their younger days, we could start out with Waddell Wilson, plus had some tie-in with Holman Moody, whether it be a short term or whatever. But if you didn't know what was going on, you didn't have no part of it. Because not everybody, don't get me wrong, we weren't all equal, but we all knew what was going on. You know, everybody had their own things. And like I say, I can't say enough good things because I didn't know the racing thing is half as good as that Herb Nab did. You know, and I learned so much stuff off of him in a short time. And say, probably in a year's time, just picking up a little stuff. And I don't know if ever anybody picked it up off of me later on. That's hard to say. They might have picked up the cussing.
Well, you're not called the mayor in the Mooresville Park for nothing, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure they remember stuff you've done
No,
for
but when they used to interview me during the TV shows, they had it on their notes. The people I didn't even know that were going to interview me during the race because they knew at one point we were going to lead. Mm-hmm. And they would interview me as we were running for something, and they would remind me not to use the F word. You know.
When things progressed and racing started to go a little bit different direction, you took a turn and you went to work for STP.
Right. Then, I took
with Ralph Salvino.
PR. And I would travel with Richard Petty.
And Ralph Salvino.
And
Rick's got his model company going now, his son.
Yeah, he had it going back then, too,
Yeah,
believe
like
it.
little figurines or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
They had it going back then, 30 years ago. And they were doing playing cards, baseball cards. And I could never understand that. They're making big money with buying up baseball cards.
So, elaborate a little more on your relationship with that, with the Pettys, but also with your friend Andy Granatelli.
And Andy Granatelli.
Oh, yeah. Well, Andy is, I knew Andy real well. And then he sponsored my kids, too. You know.
With the Thrill Show, yeah. That's right. I forgot about it.
Yeah, he sponsored my kids. And
sorry to interrupt you. Did you know Andy before STP? Because he was around before that.
Oh, yeah, I knew him before that. He had Grand Car Automotive. He had a speed shop at Foster in Western called Grand Car. I knew him then. And in Sal Tavella and him were good buddies. And Tiger was good buddies with him. Yeah, right up to the end. Bill Venturini, that's where he got the kissing these
Right,
people.
and he's admitted it. He said,
Oh, did he?
And I thought I heard him at least one interview say that's why he started
Yeah,
doing
he
that,
could have.
because of Andy Grant.
Because Andy used to do that. Yeah.
Remember watching him chasing Richard Petty around the car there at Daytona. Richard trying to get away from because he knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Mario had the wreath around him, and he leaned in and planted one on Mario. I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. That is. No, I was real fortunate. I met some real good people. I was at the right place at the right time, and got to meet people, and every one of them. One of my closest friends today in racing is around is Chip Ganassi.
Out of Chicago. Yeah, he's been
No,
around.
no, he's from Pennsylvania.
Oh, I thought he was from Chicago. I'm sorry. Well, I'm glad you corrected me.
Yeah, he's from Pittsburgh. They're one of the.
Oh, I know what I was thinking. He helped put together the Cicero track. That's where I got the Chicago.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, they promoted that track. Yeah, that didn't go over. It was a horse track.
Right.
I think it was a little too narrow or something. Wasn't it, Kyle?
No, it just didn't take off. Where the location was in a bad part of town.
Yeah.
But now here, Chicagoland looks like it's gone too.
Is that track still there, or is it?
It's
Still
on
there.
hold right now, from what I'm understanding.
But around it is really warehouses and.
Oh, so you could even park a bunch of cars around it. Oh, they built around it?
There's a huge Amazon warehouse straight across the street, right out the tunnel.
Where the cornfield used to be?
Yeah.
I remember the cornfield there.
I want you to meet the man who got them started in this field, Lou Sipolt Sr. Lou, welcome to the show. Meet Frankie Valli, my co-host, Lou. How did you get the boys started? And was it, of course, the oldest boy started first?
Right. A fellow by the name of Joie Chitwood is probably the most popular in the thrill show frame. Gave the boys their opportunity to appear with them in his thrill show.
and Lou got their first cars shortly after they got their first shoes. They were special cars, made just for them. He's Mark, but everyone calls him Sparky. Now it's my turn to see the world from two wheels.
Are you ready?
I was a little nervous. None of the boys have a driver's license yet.
Stop! Oh, you all right? Yeah. Terrific. What else do you do for fun?
Why don't, before we start getting off on something else, why don't you talk about the boys and their thrill show and how you put that together and being on the Mike Douglas show and the different things of that era?
Well, I had to promote a lot of that. You know,
Tell us about that.
and what's his name? Cowboy O'Rourke was real good friends with Joey Chitwood. Okay? And I'm trying to remember whose car I had. I'm sure I had one of the Holman Moody cars. Could have been Parnelli's car. It's hard to say. In my garage in Chicago. And Cowboy Rourke was a midget driver, good friends with Joey Chitwood, Sr.
Mm-hmm.
And so he brought him over to meet me and look at one of the race cars I had there. And my kids had two little go-karts that they got from John Rostek when they were born. The guy from Colorado, when each one was born. They were 1 and 2 years old. They had these go-karts. So then Chitwood said, come over, and then Cowboy said, you ought to see these kids drive these go-karts. So I started them both up in the alley behind my house, and the two of them start doing zigzags and driving and spinning out with the go-karts, and they were like 3 or 4 years old at the time. And Joey says, God damn. He said, it's amazing. He says, how about if I sent them kids a couple of little miniature Corvettes? You know, and then when our thrill show's in this area, you
Come
can
on over.
support them. I said, yeah, not a problem. Not thinking I'm going to make a career out of this. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, he's going to send. A week later, here comes a truck with 2 big boxes from here to that wall there. 2 little miniature Corvettes on go-kart with engines and everything on them. I said, damn.
He's serious.
So I've built a roll bar for him and put bumpers on it and this and that and fired them up, and the kids are, boy, this is pretty nice. And so then they started to do Soldiers Field. They had a big show that in, I don't know how many people were there. They had 2 or 3 night thrill show at Soldiers Field in Chicago. Probably 20, 30,000 people. So they brought the kids there. And all they did was 2 pylons, they did some crisscrossing, and then they staged a race on the track. It went over big. The next thing you know, the TV stations are calling us and this and that. And it went over big, getting all kinds of publicity. So then the guy running that section of the Chitwood show said, I'd like to see, can we get them kids up in Minnesota to State Fair? They're always looking for something different. I said, geez, I don't know. I said, I can't count on it. I said, I have to get permission from the guy I work for. It was Holman. Because I said, because we're racing then. You know, maybe a couple days or something during the week or something. You know, see what we can work out. So I told him. I said, okay, but I said, I'll have to leave and then I have to fly back or something. You know, so we made arrangements. And I remember like it was yesterday. Put them out there, and then they did their little thing, crisscrossing and staged the race. Some guy comes up to me and says, how much you get for that act? He was an agent from Chicago. I said, what do you get for the act? I said, no, I'm a friend of Chitwood's. I said, send us these cars. He says, well, I'd like to be your agent. He says, for 10 minutes or so. I said, I can get you $600-700.
Wow.
To watch him drive, yeah. Now the wheels are turning. Mm-hmm. So next thing you know, he says, we got a convention in November. And he says, can we bring one of the cars down there? We brought one of the cars down there. And I put Joey Chitwood's World's Youngest Daredevils. So
I think everybody our age probably saw that, you know,
yeah.
Joey Chitwood and your kids. Yeah. I remember him.
So he says, I got all these dates. He said, I just got to get your approval. I said, oh, no, we can't do that. I said, I got a regular job. They got to go to school because then they were starting school then, you know. And I think they were like 5 or 6 years old then when they're doing the fairs and that, you know. And I said, no, I said, we can do a few of them, but we can't do nothing like that. And so we just did it, and then next thing you know, following year I was at the convention, and the guy said, boy, he says, we'd like to have them kids back, but the price, it like tripled. Because then in the meantime, I contacted What's My Line to tell the truth, and they accepted him. We flew the cars to New York,
Wow.
and Sparky was on What's My Line when he was 4 years old, or 5 years old, or something like that.
They had to put a stool up or something so he could sign in.
Yeah,
And he could barely print, you know.
yeah. And anyways, then next thing you know, I started handling all that. You can't trust them. Everybody's honest till you catch them.
Didn't you, Derek, contact you to come up to Rockford Speedway and places like that?
No, I contacted him
Okay.
to practice up there. So then we decided, then Andy, a PR guy, came up with the idea, if we promoted a couple MGs, could they drive them? They were like 10 and 11 years old.
Oh, wow.
I said, well, this is some convertibles.
Mm-hmm.
I says, yeah, if you can get a couple of them. And they promoted a couple of MG. They called them MG midgets. They were a smaller version of an MG convertible.
Mm-hmm. But now with a convertible, now you can see the kids now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, I got a wrecked one and fixed it. And then I was going to teach Lou how to do 2 wheels. I built a training wheel with a regular wheel on it. So he got too far to go on the wheel, so he didn't flip it over, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked Hugh Deary if we could practice up there and keep one of the cars up there. So then when I was able to, at night, during the week, I would take them up there and would practice for an hour. You know, just enough to get an idea. And he got to be real good at that. And he drove Pocono.
Oh, wow.
He went 7.5 miles, or 5.5, or 7.5.
7th was finally. I think he went 5, then 6, then 7, and it was a Guinness record.
Yeah, yeah. I want to say, 3 times he went around the track. And then we tried to, Mattioli said, see if we can break that record the following year. And he just went 4 or 5 and the tire blew, even though we used new tires. Used the sidewalls. Same tire. It, probably different heat, whatever it was, you know.
Did you contact Mike Douglas, or did they contact you guys?
No, I contacted them. Yeah. I contacted all of them. That, you know,
And they did it with the cars, and they went outside and had the whole thing with.
yeah, we
You know.
did it on the street, and that made me nervous. And the crowd was right there, and that was
Right.
a little nerve-wracking there. And then Sparky, he was small then, he was 5 years old then, and then he lost the brakes on one,
Oh.
and then he's smart enough to he hit the curb, driving in the curb rather than driving into people. So then we had a backup car for Sparky, you know,
Right.
and but we had no backup cars for the other cars, you know. And then during the act, Sparky was like 5 or 6 years old. Lou would get ready to do his 2-wheel shot and would pull the car up. He would pull the car up and would have the ramp up, and he would get out of the car. And then we had a pillow in the car. And then he would go look at the ramp, make sure everything was right. It was part of the thing. It gives Sparky a chance to run over to the car, jump in the car, take off with the car. you'd steal the car. You know,
5-6 years old.
it's part of the act, you know. So,
And what was the official name of the act? I mean, it probably changed a couple times when you weren't running with Joey Chitwood.
Sipolt brothers, world's youngest daredevils, you know. And
So all you YouTubers out there, enter that in. Sipolt.
Sipolt.
Brothers. It's probably on YouTube somewhere.
It is on YouTube, and it's on Twitter.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they got it all on them. I haven't seen them on, but they tell me you could on YouTube or whatever. I don't know enough about. If I want to look something up, I got to contact my personal
Your unofficial PR guy.
advisor. He knows all that stuff.
So tell them what Lou Jr. is doing right now with the car.
Well, he's
Took it out of mothballs and
and he got it running.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been in mothballs for 30 years at least. You know,
and he's still got one of the little cars too.
Wow.
I got all the cars. Well, Lou's got one or two of the little cars.
There's 2 little ones in his garage plus the midget or the MG.
Yeah,
Wow.
and then Sparky's, a couple of them small cars are still in Chicago garage, and the 2-wheel car is there. I figured
Wow.
give that one, that's Sparky's car, because he in turn drove that, if you want to say, because
He'd steal it.
yeah, Mike's got one and Lou's got one.
Wow.
You know, so he got it running after all these years, but they earned enough at that time. I remember at Charlotte Motor Speedway, it was it had been 75 or 76 the year that we had to paint the cars red, white, and blue. It was at 76.
For the bicentennial year?
Yeah. You know, and
Something that stands out on me on them cars too was a lot of the lettering. You had a hand lettering guy out.
Stenquist, Lynn
Yeah.
Stenquist.
Oh,
And,
Harvey?
But I remember for some reason the Thermo King logo always sticks out to me. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, then on the bottom of it we had Thermo King, because then they sponsored the cars. The thermal refrigeration unit out of Minnesota.
They've been on race cars for years, too.
Yeah.
Indy cars and all that.
Right. Because, we were lucky we landed that. Because then we got a monthly salary from them. And then, that's what I wanted to tell you, like with Humpy Wheeler, for 2 days we got $6,500 or $7,000. And by the time they were like 15 or 16 years old, the 2 oldest guys accumulated then close to $100,000.
Wow.
It was set up as a trust fund for their college education. Now Sparky, he didn't come in on it until toward the end, so he didn't get nowhere near what they ended up, and he ended up with like 30,000 if I had to guess his figure. So then after their mother passed away, and then Sparky took his money. He wasn't going to go to college.
So
He bought a new motorcycle.
I have to interrupt real quick. It just shows your character that you promoted him. You were the dad. You were the mechanic. You drove him across country. You lost luggage off the car somewhere one time.
I'll never forget.
And you put all the money aside for your children.
Yeah, I never took a dime. I took the money Thermo King paid us, and that took care of the expenses. For the trucks, the expenses basically. That's the money I took, the sponsorship money. I think at that time we got $5,000 a month, year round. But we had the expenses, no question about it. But all their money they earned went into their college trust fund. Lou used it because he studied to be a vet, and he used up almost all of his money. Mike got married, and he had like 80,000 or 90-some thousand took half of it, put it down on the house, you know, or condo or whatever you call it, or townhouse,